can I just ask Dr. Bhalla one question before we move on to our next big question, which is on fuel prices, which is linked to the health in a way of the economy as well. Fuel prices, Dr. Bhalla, even though particularly in the early years of the Modi government, globally were down, since you keep saying we are an integrated economy. Just look at petrol prices. I'll put them on our screen. Diesel prices, LPG cylinder, April 2014 at 410. They're now 1,100 to 1,200. Many believe that cost the BJP, in fact, the Karnataka elections. Do you accept that in a way, that while the Modi government has expanded with all these welfare schemes, brought in many more beneficiaries, when my fuel prices are up, and when they've risen considerably in that 21-22 period, in particular several rises, how do you then justify the fact that the government has kept its promises to the people?
Okay, 2 points on that. One, I personally would, if anybody had asked me, I would have advised that, look, the fuel prices should be lowered, okay? So that is my opinion. Now, so, economists can disagree, people can disagree, etc. The other story is that inflation in India has been fantastically well contained. We have not only the best growing economy in the world, we have the least acceleration in inflation. So let's look, so that doesn't mean that, all I'm saying is that if we want to look at inflation by itself, we have done exceedingly well, given all the shocks. Because as I said, please remember, we are a global economy.
Professor Gowda, I take your point. Professor Gowda, you want a quick response to that? Because again, when I look at UPA numbers versus NDA numbers on inflation, the NDA's record is better, particularly in that critical period of 2009 to 13, when inflation was double digit during your government. So when you can attack the government on fuel prices, they'll turn and look at overall inflation.
You've got to look at inflation along with whether wages are rising at all. And you've seen real wages essentially stagnating over the 9 years of Modi Sarkar. So people's ability to afford anything more has not really increased. That really puts a burden on them. And that's where, like Surjit just pointed out, the government had the opportunity to cut fuel prices and both lower inflation even further, and also ensure that there's more money in people's pockets, which would have helped, help them spend and trigger growth.
Right.
But the government was addicted to this huge windfall from lower crude oil prices, and has really done a disservice to the people of India, especially the poor.
Okay, let me turn therefore to the third big question. Is India now really a Vishwaguru, or is that only a dream? Swapan Dasgupta, you say there is a positive fervor in this country. Do you believe, first of all, define this Vishwaguru concept, because that's been now associated with Prime Minister Modi. Every time he goes on a foreign trip, it's made out to be that he's taking India's stock high. What is your definition of India becoming a Vishwaguru? Is this only a dream, a jumla, a slogan?
Who is this to asking? Who are you asking?
Swapan.
Yeah. Well,
to you,
firstly, it's, I think you asked that. I'm going to twin this with your earlier question. Has India performed up to its potential? And
yes,
there is one vision of India, which is that India is an exotic country. It's a country which is going to plod along famously. It's going to be a showcase for the third world. It's going to have a noble poverty, etc. Inefficiency is going to be ingrained into the system, that you shouldn't really think big, because to think big is to think capitalist. That's one vision of the world. Now, another vision of the world, which I think Mr. Modi has tried to fulfill, is that India has never lived up to its potential since 1947, that we've underperformed everywhere, and that it needs to do far more, that far, far more, in terms to reach world-class status. That it's not enough to have a Jugaru economy, that if we are having trains, we shouldn't have shoddy trains, but we should have the best trains in the world. It's that vision, which also means that there are certain temporary hardships we must go through, and that to take the people along with it, you require the political mobilization, and you require the welfare system to be bolstered. And it is that which is Mr. Modi has done. We could have well have imported vaccines from Pfizer, which a lot of the so-called well-meaning people wanted to do. He could well have showered everyone with a helicopter full of cash during the COVID time, which is also what some of the Nobel Prize winners also suggested. He didn't. We took certain hard decisions. And those hard decisions may be unpopular to some people whose vision of India is very, very different. And I think that aspiration of trying to be a Vishwaguru is one of them, which is not universally shared by various people, especially people of the flat earth society who still abound on the left of the economic spectrum. So this is really at the heart of when we are talking about when we are talking about the 9 years of the Modi government, I think this is what we need to take into account.
Okay. Prasanjit, you want to respond to that? I think what Swapan Dasgupta is saying, Modi is pushing India to strive for excellence.
No, I hope that he realizes the vacuousness of what he is saying, because what are the facts? You know, you are talking about vision of the Prime Minister, you're talking about the left vision being outdated and the Prime Minister having a new vision. Now, I don't eat vision. People don't go to work in a vision. You know, those are material things. In 9 years, and it will soon be 10, is a long enough time for the vision to translate into socio-economic progress and benefit for the people. That is not showing, and that shows in numbers, in facts, figures, and so on. Now you can trumpet with your propagandists that the world is giving you more recognition. I see a world where India is seen day by day as a democracy which is getting eroded, as a country where corruption and crony capitalism rules the roost, in a country where democratic institutions are succumbing. That is the vision of India, that the projection of India that I see across the world. You are only making claims. These are all facts. You are basically trying to portray a picture without any evidence. You are just making claims. So
for example, Prasanjit, for example, the telecom minister says India in the years ahead will ensure, for example, microchip processing. We will be one of the biggest manufacturers, he claims, in the world.
Let me ask, what has happened to Make in India? The Prime Minister, with much fanfare, launched an initiative called Make in India, and we were supposed to become this great competition to China. 10 years. As Mr. Gaura pointed out very successfully,
I don't think the vaccines
our manufacturing share has gone down in our GDP.
I don't think the vaccines were imported from China. I don't think Vande Bharat was imported from China. You know, there are people who are rather worried that the Chinese market in India has shrunken.
Now you are talking about
one by one,
level.
Prasanjit.
No, I don't want you to make it India.